I'm sure a lot of you guys have been waiting years for Mojang to add some actually cool stuff to Minecraft. But honestly, sometimes the updates are just kind of trash. So why not just add the stuff you actually want yourself into Minecraft? And the best way to do that is with mods. And what you're watching right now is about one of the most insane mods Minecraft has ever seen. It's the one that lets you feel the magic of Itachi or straight up turn into Naruto in his four-tailed beast form, and you can also pull off some absolutely insane jutsu just like this. So welcome everybody to the video, 100 crazy jutsu in Minecraft Naruto mod that you have to try. First thing you need to do is become a genin, and to actually become a ninja, you gotta meet these requirements. First thing is your level needs to be above 10. Then you gotta go find or craft yourself some kunai and shuriken, since these are literally the go-to weapons for any ninja, so I'm pretty sure you already know where to get them. Then just go attack any random mob, and boom, you're officially a ninja now. Easy peasy, right? The perks of this are that you'll run way faster, and you get that iconic Naruto run animation. On top of that, you also get the ability to run on water. Normally, without armor on, you'd die from a fall of 23 blocks or more, but once you become a ninja, you take way less fall damage. Not only that, your resistance to explosion damage is also massively buffed. Surviving something like this without dying? Go ask the guys in the Minecraft movie. To level up your ninja rank, you need to fight mobs or use a command if you're playing in creative mode. The higher your level, the more chakra and health you'll have. This candy I'm holding can restore chakra, but if your level is too low, eating it straight up kills you. When you become a ninja, you'll be given 2 items. One is for using jutsu, and the other one is some kind of release element. It could be fire release, water release, lightning release, or wind release. Right now, these 2 items don't have any jutsu yet, so you'll need to go hunt down some jutsu scrolls to add jutsu to them. You can find these scrolls pretty much anywhere that has chests, like strongholds for example, mine shafts, or fortresses and stuff. After you activate a jutsu scroll, a menu will pop up on your screen, click learn, and you'll unlock that jutsu, just like what we have here, which is the Great Fireball Jutsu. And after you click learn, this Great Fireball Jutsu will show up under the fire release section. After that, go beat up some hostile mobs or neutral mobs and you'll earn XP from them. The XP I'm talking about here is Jutsu XP specifically, and if you want to use a jutsu, you gotta hit a certain XP level first. Or if you're feeling idle, you can just stand there and let them wail on you if you don't mind. Yeah, this method is kinda low-key shameful, but hey, it still gets you XP. And this method doesn't cost you any effort, it just costs you your life. And of course, like always, if you're in creative mode, you can just use a command to max out your Jutsu XP. And that's the basic rundown for anyone playing in survival mode. Now let's move on to the creative mode section, but before we get into the best part of the video, don't forget to drop TNT a like and subscribe. I know you've been thinking about it, but maybe feeling a bit shy. No worries, just hit that subscribe button and support me. Next up in the video, we're getting into ninjutsu. Any jutsu that doesn't use an elemental release will be listed under this ninjutsu section. And it'll have 10 jutsu total ranging from basic to absolutely busted, and I'll go through each one for you now. Kicking things off, we've got the body replacement jutsu. The mechanic is dead simple. When you activate it and take a hit, it instantly swaps you out with a nearby object. Usually just a log or something. It can also attack your opponent, and obviously it'll look exactly like you. Next up is the Shadow Clone Jutsu. This jutsu creates clones that look just like you, matching your skin, outfit, and everything. The higher your level, the more clones you can summon, and these clones will follow you around and have your back. Obviously, the best part is that they help you attack. The only downside to this is it drains your own health the more clones you have, the less HP you keep. But if you can keep yourself safe, then this is an absolute game changer in combat. Next jutsu is Rinnegan. This is honestly a classic at this point, and this jutsu creates a massive spinning chakra sphere to attack, with enemies hit by it get launched straight into the air, creating a mini tornado up there. To put its power into perspective, just 2 Rinnegans is enough to 1 to 2, the Wither, one of Minecraft's big bosses. What do you think? What if something from another dimension came at you with absolutely monstrous power, but you couldn't see it at all and couldn't fight back? What I'm talking about is the Limbo Clone, a jutsu that summons an invisible clone to attack enemies on your behalf. And the only thing that can actually see these clones is the Rinnegan. In the manga, only Madara could use this jutsu. And since it draws from the user's own power, no surprise, it hits like a truck. Ame no te jikara. Honestly, I have no idea how to pronounce this one, but this jutsu basically lets you teleport to wherever you're looking. Just look at the spot you want to go, then activate the jutsu, and you'll zip right there instantly. Puppet Jutsu, also known as the puppet technique, lets you control puppets to attack any target you want. Next up is Beetle Sphere. This jutsu summons thousands of bugs that can drain chakra from your enemies. On top of that, these bugs can immobilize, wear down, or just make enemies way easier to finish off. This right here is a jutsu that's basically an upgraded version of the hiding and camouflage jutsu. This one is genuinely invisible by bending light around your body. Occasionally when moving, a few particles might drop when you're sprinting, or you might rustle some grass, but honestly, it's not that easy to spot. A legendary jutsu of the 4th Hokage Minato, the Flying Thunder God technique. This jutsu lets you teleport to any location you've previously marked. All you gotta do is use it on a specific spot or on a creature. And then no matter how far away it is, just a single click and you'll teleport right to the marked spot immediately. Transformation Jutsu is a jutsu that lets you transform into someone else, meaning if you use it on a creature or another player, you can shapeshift into that player entirely when transformed. Besides the appearance, you also get the visual effects of whoever you copied. However, the actual base stats don't carry over, because if you just inherited all of Itachi's jutsu too, the whole Hidden Leaf Village would be cooked already. Next exciting section of the video, we're getting into Fire Release. First up, we've got the Great Fireball Jutsu, and the Great Fireball Jutsu shoots a massive fireball straight at your opponent. The power and size of the fireball depends on how long you hold the hand signs. The longer you charge it, the bigger the fireball you launch. And the range on this thing travels is absolutely bonkers far. And in this mod, Itachi is the one who spams this jutsu the most. Every time I fight him, he just keeps blasting it at me. Huh? Wait, he shoots fireballs at me? I mean, my bet. Fire Release. Majestic Demolisher Flame is considered the most powerful fire release jutsu. Basically, it's a fire-breathing technique, but it's so massive it forms an entire wall of flames. Madara probably created this jutsu just to cook anyone who stepped to him. As they say, where there's fire, there's smoke. Now that we're done with fire, let's get into the smoke. This smoke will blind and completely disorient your opponent. You can use this offensively since it also applies a burning effect, or to set up a surprise attack, or just use it to bail out. The next fire release jutsu will turn your sword into a flaming sword. When you hold your weapon, it'll have fire sparks crackling around it, and it'll apply a burning effect. And when you swing, the blade sends out a bunch of fire slashes. These fire slashes deal damage to enemies standing around you. I don't know if anyone else sees it, but personally, this kinda looks like the swords from Demon Slayer to me. We've had a bunch of offensive stuff so far, so now let's look at some defense. In the game, this technique is called Flame Formation. This jutsu can be used for protection or sealing depending on how you use it. And if anyone tries to get inside, there's absolutely no way in, and they'll get roasted on top of that. Now, when it comes to flamethrower techniques, there are two types. One is short duration but wide, and the other one is smaller but shoots way farther and lasts longer. Kinda sounds weird out of context, not gonna lie. Look at the length of those flames, reminds me of that one viewer holding a girl's hand for the first time. Next cool thing in this video is Wind Release. Kicking it off, we've got Chakra Flow. This one you can toggle on and off, and it channels chakra into an object, in this case your weapon. Weapons infused with chakra become sharper and deal significantly more damage. A perfect example is the Diamond Axe, just one swing and you can straight up one-shot an Iron Golem. You just witnessed one of the most iconic jutsu in Naruto, and that is the Rasen Shuriken. This jutsu was invented by Naruto, building off the Rasengan, turning it into a spinning shuriken form that can be thrown at enemies. The longer you charge it, the more damage it deals to enemies, and on top of that, this spinning sphere, when it hits, expands to a massive size. If you're bored of spinning spheres though, you can switch it up and use air bullets instead. These bullets deal damage when they hit a target, and if you hit blocks, you can actually blow those blocks apart. Watching it fire is like watching America spot an oil field. What do you do when an enemy is stronger than you and you just can't handle them? Exactly. Best move is to blow them away. This is a wind release jutsu that lets you create a massive gust of wind to send enemies flying. Besides blowing enemies away in the game, it also doubles as an escape tool. If you use this, you can outrun literally anyone else in the game. Trust me on this. This is also another ranged attack option for wind release. Specifically, it creates a circular wind blade that you hurl at enemies to deal damage. And if one wind blade just isn't enough for you, then let's make a whole bunch of them. This jutsu generates a ton of wind blades slashing all around you, hitting anyone unlucky enough to be standing near you. This is an area of effect jutsu, so I personally think it's great for clearing out creepers. Done with wind release. Now let's jump into lightning release. In the show, Naruto had the Rasengan, so what does Sasuke have? You guessed it, the Chidori. This jutsu channels lightning chakra into your palm, then dashes forward to stab straight through your opponent. Since it's lightning based, when you attack things like pigs or villagers, it'll transform them into piglins or witches. A jutsu that lets you run lightning energy through your entire body, boosting your speed and power big time. On top of that, when you lock onto a specific target, you'll instantly dash right up to them. This is a sick way to close the gap and get up in their face out of nowhere. Now that we've got close range covered, let's get to long range attacks. This jutsu lets you shoot lightning bolts straight at your opponent. And if you feel like that jutsu is kinda bland, then step up to this upgraded one, a jutsu, where you summon a full-on thunderstorm and then send an entire lightning dragon straight at the faces of people watching this video without liking it. When you're done going crazy with ranged attacks, we still have another option, and that's summoning pets. You've got two options. First is a dog, and second is a leopard. This black leopard doesn't cost much chakra, but the damage it puts out is absolutely massive. If we're talking about the most diverse element in terms of attack styles, it's gotta be water release. Kicking off water release, we've got water shark bomb. You use water to shape it into a shark and it launches itself at the enemy, then it explodes for absolutely massive damage.
It is American time.
Another pretty cool attack is turning water into bullets and using them to shred enemies around you. This technique isn't the hardest hitter, but the attack speed and range can definitely be annoying to deal with in actual fights. But take a closer look at this clip. Doesn't it look exactly like my buddy when a girl walks by? If you're not feeling bullets or sharks, you can switch it up and use a dragon. Sure, the raw power isn't the craziest compared to what I'll show you at the end of this video, but think about it. Imagine summoning a water dragon like this to attack your enemy. Yeah, it's not the strongest, but it looks cool. Water prison jutsu lets you trap enemies inside a prison made of water. This water prison can hold enemies in place, but it has a downside, which is you have to keep holding the jutsu active continuously because it's constantly draining chakra. So the moment you stop, the enemy breaks free. Next jutsu has a pretty bold name, Exploding Water Shockwave. This creates a massive water bubble, and this water bubble actually follows the player around. So you can trap enemies inside this water bubble and just keep chasing them around. The only real damage comes from drowning your opponent, which is why the creatures are still alive while inside the water sphere. A jutsu that takes full advantage of water's properties, and this is the one that lets you hide in the mist. Since I'm using shaders, you can see the white misty fog on screen. And you can actually see enemies through it and see them glowing. Even if terrain is blocking them or they're underground, you can still see them plain as day. That's exactly why this is insanely good for guerrilla-style fighting, like actual military tactics. In terms of the attack style, this technique isn't really all that different from the shark summoning one from earlier. Basically, it just swaps out the shark shape for a cannonball. I think there's probably a slight difference in range and damage though. If I could make a suggestion next time, make it look like a fighter jet. This jutsu uses a chemical substance to attack the opponent. Yep, that substance is acid. Normally, just getting a drop of acid on you melts you apart, and now it's spraying like a shower. And of course, we absolutely cannot leave out the final element, which is earth release. We've hidden in smoke and we've hidden in the mist. Now, obviously, we're hiding in rock. Basically, the easiest way to understand it is it's like spectator mode in Minecraft. Obviously, it has some limitations compared to actual spectator mode, like slower movement speed, and the way you exit this mode if you dash into a cave, you'll probably phase out of it and become an anime fan. One of the most classic Earth release techniques is summoning rock walls to block incoming attacks from enemies. In the game, depending on how long you charge, you can make the wall taller or shorter. And depending on the terrain you're standing on, the material of the wall also changes. It could be sand, dirt, or stone, or even a mix of all three. This jutsu has one of the goofiest names, Earth Sandwich Jutsu. This technique can be used for offense or defense, depending on your playstyle, since it can generate a massive spherical chunk of earth, and naturally, it only works on creatures that are big and kinda slow moving. A jutsu that turns the ground around you into a swamp. And honestly, I think this one is pretty useful in actual combat. Not to mention, if you charge it long enough, the area of effect can get absolutely massive. The scale of it could swallow up every single tailed beast that exists in Naruto. Imagine the scale of this on the battlefield. In a massive ninja war with tons of shinobi, what would that even look like? Honestly though, this jutsu summons stone spikes that look way cooler than Minecraft's. These spikes shoot up from the ground and damage anything standing on top. But honestly, this is the full extent of its power, even though I maxed it out. Now that we're in the ninja world, nobody's out here using those little iron golems anymore. Now, you gotta roll with these massive, absolutely gigantic golems. Just 2 hits from this thing can one-shot an iron golem. And this just goes to show it's stronger than even the warden in Minecraft. The way this golem fights is by launching the player into the air and not letting them touch the ground. That's exactly why, without a teleport jutsu or some kind of movement ability, there's literally no escape from this golem. Next section of the video, we're getting into Kekkei genkai. And there are 3 types of Kekkei genkai. And we'll start with the first form, which is the dual element combination type. For anyone who's lost, what's on screen right now is the Advanced Transformation tab, explaining how the elemental mechanics work and how to combine elements to unlock Kekkei genkai. For example, a Kekkei genkai that's a combination of earth release and water release would be wood release. And first up, we've got dust release, with a jutsu called Detachment of the Primitive World Technique. This jutsu is technically a Kekkei Toda, but in this mod, it's grouped together with Kekkei genkai, the laser beam. This jutsu fires, reaches about 20 blocks, deals damage to creatures, and destroys terrain. And from what I know, this thing can one-shot a tailed beast, even when charged at the absolute minimum level. The next jutsu has a cube shape, and when you use it, the cube starts forming from inside the creature it hits. The size of the cube depends on how long you charge it. Before using this jutsu, can also straight up destroy bedrock and apply a slowness debuff to enemies so they can't run. Next, Kekkei genkai is wood release. The first jutsu is wood burial. This jutsu sprouts a tree that buries any entities. It hits deep inside it. Burying regular mobs is whatever at this point. So now I'm burying Itachi himself in the game. Only, of course, in real life, you'd probably end up burying yourself. The jutsu lasts for 10 seconds, but you can recast it continuously so you don't have to worry about the entities inside escaping. Has anyone here ever played Fortnite? Because this jutsu kind of reminds me of the building mechanic in that game. What it's actually doing is building a wooden cage to lock entities inside, but to me, it honestly looks more like a house foundation. For anyone wondering, can you place this like in Bed Wars? The answer is no. It's mainly just for immobilizing enemies. Done planting trees and laying foundations. Let's just build an entire house while we're at it. Building a house like a straight-up engineer? At first glance, it looks like a decent survival house. The downside, though, is it has no furniture. The jutsu that looks the most chill in wood release is summoning a golem, and the greatest person to ever use this jutsu was Hashirama, the first Hokage. The key difference between this golem and the stone one is that you can actually control this one. Being able to pilot the golem yourself obviously means you'll have way more flexibility in combat, plus you stay a lot safer too. On top of that, you have the ability to restrain enemies by summoning tree roots that wrap tightly around your opponent. And you can grab onto them and drag them wherever you want. Like dragging them into your love shack, for example.
Bruh.
The third Kekkei genkai in this video is magnet release. To use magnet release jutsu, you'll need a gourd filled with iron sand. First jutsu is Shield of Sand. When you activate this, sand flies out of the gourd, creating a shield to nullify enemy damage. Leveraging sand's flexibility. You can also shape it into bullets and fire them off for massive explosions, or drill through terrain. When activated, the sand will hover around you. When released, the sand shoots straight forward, pushing enemies back and dealing decent damage. Besides attacking, the sand also has the ability to blind enemies, leaving them completely disoriented. The sand will rush at enemies and swarm around them. The only real downside is the lag is absolutely brutal. If you need to get around, this sand can turn into a surfboard like Silver Surfer or Goku's flying Nimbus, and obviously flying is super convenient. If you still need more attack options, you can summon a pyramid-shaped drill, and you can control where the drill is aimed. And whenever it collides with a structure or any entity, it'll explode, dealing damage to your enemies. Continuing with the exciting Kekkei Genkai section, we've got Ice Release. One of the default perks of Ice Release is that you'll have the Frostwalker effect even without wearing armor. The first attack jutsu in Ice Release is summoning ice lances from the ground. The attack style and range are pretty similar to one of the Earth Release jutsu that I already showed you. The main difference is probably the damage and what the spikes are made of. If you'd rather not do AoE damage, you can use ice lances for long-range attacks, and you shoot those lances like projectiles at enemies. The artsy flex in Ice Release is the Crystal Mirror Jutsu. When you activate this jutsu, you transform into a cube made entirely of mirrors. To give you a clearer picture of how it attacks, I'll let myself be the victim of this crystal mirror. Now this can trap entities inside, and from the mirrors forming the cube, it fires ice lances, dealing damage to them. This is also the jutsu of the character who had the earliest death in Naruto. And here's another technique that's kind of similar to the water prison jutsu, but there's one key difference. You don't have to keep holding the jutsu active like water prison, because ice is a solid state rather than liquid like water. If there's one Kekkei Genkai that fits my channel name, it's definitely Explosion Release. Kicking off with Landmine Fist, this gives you an effect where every punch you throw at any target triggers an explosion, depending on how long you charge. Damage ranges from 3 to 95. This jutsu gives you the ability of an evoker, summoning Vexes, but these are upgraded Vexes because they can straight up kamikaze into enemies. This is another upgraded version of Shadow Clone Jutsu, but these clones are anything but normal compared to others. If this clone touches any creature, just 1 to 2 seconds later it explodes, dealing 74 damage. This is one of the rare abilities that could actually exist in real life. Moving on in the video, we'll get into Scorch Release. The first jutsu is summoning scorching orbs that orbit above your head, and this jutsu is also the prerequisite to use the next two jutsu. If you have extra chakra, you can summon as many scorching orbs as you want. They'll torch any entity that gets too close. I'm willing to bet Sakura is this mod creator's favorite character, because I've thrown so many jutsu at her, and only a handful of the absolutely strongest ones actually manage to put her down. Once you have multiple orbs orbiting you, or at least one, you can hurl them at enemies, burning them alive and sending them to the afterlife. Or instead, you can choose to merge all the orbs into one massive fireball and launch it at your enemy. Since this is purely a scorching jutsu, the actual structural destruction isn't that insane, but in terms of damage output, don't even worry about it, except against Sakura, obviously. A Kekkei Genkai combining Fire Release and Earth Release is Lava Release. This jutsu is basically an upgrade to the Great Fireball Jutsu, but instead of shooting a regular fireball, it now shoots a ball of lava, and it's even bigger than before. If your enemy is already tired of the acid shower, treat them to a lava bath instead using this jutsu. And this jutsu is Lava Chakra Mode. It turns you into a walking ball of lava. Besides moving fast, when you're running, all entities within about 5 to 7 blocks around you will get burned. This jutsu is called Quick Lime, and it works by spitting hot quicklime at high temperatures toward enemies. But honestly, no matter how I look at it, it looks more like spitting on your enemy. And Storm Release is the next Kekkei Genkai making its appearance in this video. For Storm Release, it only has 2 jutsu. The first jutsu creates a thunder cloud around you, and anyone who dares to get close gets hit by lightning and paralyzed. If you don't like the auto attack style, you can switch to the second jutsu. This one fires a laser beam of lightning, paralyzing enemies. On top of that, it can deal 520 damage per tick. The 9th Kekkei Genkai is Boil Release. This one is also the most straightforward Kekkei Genkai with only 2 jutsu. The first jutsu blasts a stream of steam at enemies ahead. This steam deals damage with a corrosion effect on any entity it hits. The second jutsu is a body enhancement technique. It also releases a chakra pulse. This pulse deals damage to anyone standing near you. Kinda sounds like a weaker version of Conqueror's Haki from One Piece. To continue the video, we're moving on to the next part of Kekkei Genkai, which is Dojutsu. And when we talk about Dojutsu, we can't leave out the sharingan. And there are several types of sharingan in this mod, like the regular sharingan and its upgraded form, which is the Mangekyo Sharingan, which is also the eye of Obito or Kakashi's if you prefer. And of course, we can't forget Sasuke's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. This is also the upgraded form of the Mangekyo Sharingan. And to obtain it, you need to transplant a Mangekyo Sharingan from someone of close blood relation. Just like Sasuke, who obtained his by transplanting his brother Itachi's eye. Besides the Sharingan, we also can't skip the Byakugan, and the cooler upgraded version of it, which is the Tenseigan. But there's also a version that's way better than both Sharingan and Rinnegan. But there's a state that's even better than that, and it's in the most hype part of this video. Alright, first let's start with the base Sharingan, and you'll get two really dope abilities from this eye. The first is you get a 60% chance to dodge attacks and jutsu. The second is that whenever any creature attacks you, it gets detected and starts glowing. Plus, you'll also unlock the feature of locking onto enemies. Now let's get into Sasuke's regular Mangekyo Sharingan. The first skill of the Mangekyo Sharingan is Amaterasu. This is a black flame that hits incredibly hard. Once this jutsu locks onto a target, there's no dodging it. However, if you overuse Amaterasu, your eyes will start hurting. And on top of that, you'll keep getting the darkness debuff. This is an eternal flame, so you absolutely cannot put it out with water normally. And once you're on fire, even if you jump into water, it does absolutely nothing. And this right here is Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan. With this one, instead of Amaterasu, you get two different jutsu. First jutsu is Intangibility. This is the ghost phase state. In this state, you literally cannot take damage from any source, whether it's a punch or a jutsu. But this jutsu doesn't last forever. It's not super long. Every time you use it, you need 10 seconds of cooldown before using again. And on top of that, it eats through a lot of chakra. So use it wisely and make every second count. While active, you can also phase through solid objects, just like creative mode. From what I've read, it pulls you into the Kamui dimension to dodge damage and phase through walls. And the second unique jutsu is Kamui. To use this jutsu, first you need to hold shift, then press your first jutsu key. You can remap this key in the settings. And after holding it on a creature for a moment, you can banish it to another dimension called Kamui. And you can also do this to yourself. And to pull that off, you use the jutsu on the block right below your feet. Inside this dimension, there's not a ton going on. It's just rectangular boxes stacked and overlapping each other. To get back out, just repeat the same process as getting in. One shared trait between both Mangekyo Sharingan types is Susanoo. And in this mod, there are 5 different Susanoo stages. First up is Ribcage Susanoo. In this form, Susanoo looks like a skeletal ribcage. The second is an upgrade from Ribcage Susanoo. In this stage, Susanoo is a half-body skeleton, besides the increased damage. It also gets 2 arms and a head compared to the first form. The third stage is Susanoo Half-Body. In this state, the skeleton Susanoo from before is now covered in flesh and muscles, making it more humanoid. The fourth stage is developed from Susanoo Half-Body, and that's Susanoo Full Body. In this state, Susanoo gains legs, and obviously it moves way more fluidly than before. And of course, we gotta mention the most perfect form in this mod. Complete Body Susanoo. In this state, you can use skills and weapons depending on which type of Mangekyo Sharingan you have. But before we get into the weapons and skills for each Mangekyo Sharingan type, let's talk about the color options. The color of Susanoo depends on the type of chakra you have, and partly on your personality too. Besides Sasuke's dark brooding purple, we also have Shisui's green, and of course we can't leave out Madara's blue. This blue one kind of looks like Kakashi's to me, but I don't think it is. And there's black and orange, but I have no idea who those belong to. With Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan, when you activate Complete Body Susanoo, you can wield the Kagutsuchi sword forged from Amaterasu flames, its special skill is shooting a bunch of Amaterasu fireballs. But they don't explode. However, since they're made of Amaterasu fire, they can still burn enemies alive. Even though the skill can spread Amaterasu damage over a wide area. Don't sleep on its basic melee either, because one swing is all it takes to delete Itachi. And for Kakashi's Mangekyo Sharingan. You can use the Kamui Shuriken instead of a sword like Sasuke's Kagutsuchi. Probably the only limitation here is the line of sight issue. As for damage, don't even sweat it. The only thing you need to worry about is having enough chakra to keep throwing shurikens. And this is also one of the rare few damage types that can actually take down Sakura in this mod. And for the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, it combines both types we just saw. When you have this eye, you can simultaneously use all three jutsu, being Amaterasu, Intangibility, and Kamui. And at the same time, while in complete body, Susanoo, you can dual wield both the Kagutsuchi sword and the Kamui Shuriken. Next dojutsu in this video is the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. And when you have this eye, you'll unlock a few jutsu. First up is a jutsu that inverts the colors and your vision. It's kinda like toggling the negative filter on your phone, and there are some extra features too. Like any entities within your field of view will glow even if they're invisible or hidden behind blocks. And when you activate this vision mode, your body also becomes transparent. Though I'm honestly not sure if it's genuinely transparent or if it just removes your body model so it doesn't block the view. The second jutsu is 8 trigrams vacuum palm, then fires a concentrated air blast at enemies, dealing damage and launching them back. What I personally like about this jutsu is that it can charge up energy and then expand its range and power. The jutsu I find the most fun from this eye is the 8 trigrams 64 palms. So what does this 8 trigram circle do? In normal mode, the damage you deal to weak mobs is pretty mid. But when you activate this 8 trigram circle, you can trap enemies inside the 8 trigram circle with limited vision. And the damage you can deal to mobs trapped inside this 8 trigram circle gets cranked up like crazy. Next jutsu is a shield. To create it, channel chakra into your fist, then spin rapidly. You're probably thinking this thing is so tiny, how can it possibly hit hard? Yeah, it's weak for real, but you can scale up its size based on your chakra level. The more max chakra you have, the bigger this shield gets, but no matter how big it gets, the damage it does caps out at just 20, and it just pushes enemies back. Classic case of big but weak. The next ability is terrain clearing. Wherever it goes, it breaks every block in its path, leaving a completely flat surface behind. Moving on in this video, let's get into Tensegan, which is the upgraded version of the Byakugan I just introduced. Calling it an upgrade is a stretch though, because the jutsu aren't really related to the Byakugan at all. The 3 jutsu in the Tensegan are actually similar to the Rinnegan's jutsu. So right now I'll just cover the Tensegan chakra mode, which is unique to this eye. The other 3 jutsu I'll introduce later alongside the Rinnegan. The first jutsu charges up chakra into a sphere and fires it at enemies. This sphere creates an explosion, roughly equivalent to 3 to 4 TNT, but the actual damage is way more than that. The next jutsu compresses air pressure around you, then releases a massive air pressure blast at enemies, launching them high into the air. It doesn't deal direct damage, but the fall damage from being sent airborne is real. In terms of raw destruction, it's decent, but the power still doesn't quite hit different. If you need something that actually hits different, the third jutsu might satisfy. This jutsu fires a golden beam of light with insane range, and everywhere it passes, it obliterates all blocks. Not just that, it also deals massive damage to anything that touches this golden beam. Once you've reached this level of power, I think you can pretty much run the entire mod. So, in Actual Combat, you can obliterate mobs in this mod as easy as swatting a fly. Alright, I kept you guys waiting long enough. It's time for the Rinnegan. And this right here is the Jutsu Pain used to destroy the Hidden Leaf Village. This is also one of the most iconic jutsu in all of Naruto. It can build up power over time. Like a lot of other jutsu, the max charge goes up to 100. And when you hit 100 and release it, it creates a massive shockwave, and it's hard to even see. And it wipes out everything in its path, whether it's blocks or anyone standing in the affected range. Before we get to the most complex jutsu, let's cover Jutsu 3. This jutsu lets you pull opponents toward you, and it applies to every single entity in the world in its second state. It can also grab a block. These blocks serve two purposes: to combo with the first jutsu, or to drop it on enemies from above for damage. And when both of these states work together, they were designed to support each other in attack combos. Alright, you just witnessed Chibaku Tensei. This is one of the most powerful jutsu and one of the most destructive in the Rinnegan's arsenal. Specifically, this jutsu creates a gravitational point above your head, and this gravity point pulls in everything around it. It can pull in dirt, stone, and even creatures, and after some time, when it's collected enough material, it forms a massive sphere above your head. In the anime, Pain used this jutsu to trap Naruto in Tailed Beast mode inside it. And once the sphere is fully formed, you can drop it onto whatever target you're aiming at, dealing damage to them. And wherever this sphere or meteor lands, it creates a massive explosion, obliterating a huge area and leaving a gigantic crater. If you're tough enough to survive the damage from the initial explosion, then you'll move to the next challenge, which is surviving the aftershock from the blast. And this massive crater is what's left after I hit the village with Chibaku Tensei. Yeah, one absolutely enormous crater. So, as you can see, Jutsu 2 has a lot of states like Tendo, Preta, Animal, Naraka, and Outer. The next form of Jutsu 2 is Asura Path, which replaces your body with machinery. It augments your body and adds multiple weapons, while also boosting a ton of your stats, from health to armor durability or base armor rating. From the upgraded arm, you can fire black receivers, and they explode upon contact with terrain or any entity. The firing mechanism on this works pretty much like a gun, and you can check the remaining black receiver count on your left hand. With power like this, I'm confident that, except for the mod creator's precious Sakura, no creature alive can survive a showdown with this power. And if you're still not convinced, I'll prove it by taking out Deidara without even breaking a sweat. Just like how I clapped Sakura. Next state is Animal Path. When you use this, you can summon a demon dog. This one is huge, has 2 heads, and has Rinnegan eyes, and its behavior is basically just like a tamed wolf in Minecraft. This demon dog has very clear pros and cons. Since it's powerful, it can go toe-to-toe with pretty much any mob in this mod. Except obviously enemies that can fly. When it faces those, the demon dog basically just stands there and takes the L. As for Preta Path, its skill is purely defensive. Simply put, you create a rectangular barrier surrounding you for absolute defense. Enemies literally cannot touch you, but you can still poke them through it using these black receivers. Next jutsu we have is Naraka Path, and this technique lets you summon the King of Hell. This ability is within the Naraka Path. The King of Hell's appearance is a giant head surrounded by hellfire, and what this jutsu does is resurrect the dead in Naruto. But in Minecraft, it acts as a respawn point. If you die in the game, you'll be immediately brought back to wherever the King of Hell is. And at that moment, you can also activate the Outer Path Samsara function, keeping you from dying and preserving your current state. Think of it like the fountain mechanic in League of Legends. That's basically what it is. and after you've recovered enough health to keep fighting, you can dismiss the jutsu and head back out. Moving into Outer Path. It gives you the ability to summon the demonic statue of the Outer Path. This statue is the empty husk of the Ten Tails after all its chakra was drained. This is one of the most powerful summons in Naruto. This thing alone can restrain all the tailed beasts and drain their chakra to become the Ten Tails. In terms of versatility compared to other summons, this thing is the undisputed GOAT. Instead of being slow and clunky like the other summons, this one actually moves really fast. In actual fights, regular mobs basically have no shot except for Hidan. Hidan's cursing ritual is genuinely annoying to deal with. The next part is hands down the best part of this video. It covers the forms, summons, and the most OP powers in this Naruto mod. And the first form in this section is Might Guy's 8 Inner Gates. I don't know if you've noticed, but usually in movies or anime, the characters who wear green tend to be super cool and strong. Anyway, let's get back to the main topic. Might Guy's abilities include 8 different gates, and these 8 gates scale up in power from 1 to 8. The first 3 gates don't have massive differences, just buffs to things like jump height, damage, and speed. At the 4th gate, the ninja's body starts turning red, and when transitioning from gate 3 to gate 4, the ninja starts taking damage and starts screaming from the sheer pain. Scream a little louder and maybe you'll go Super Saiyan. The difference between Gate 4 and Gate 5 is that Gate 5 takes even more damage. But in exchange, your stats get a huge boost. The difference becomes more obvious when you hit Gate 6. And at Gate 6, you start emitting a blue aura. In this state, you can punch at insane speed. And each punch also fires mini fireballs. This technique is called Morning Peacock. Looking at all those fireballs, you might think they're weak, but from Gate 6 onwards, not a single technique is weak anymore. Now we're at Gate 7, called the Gate of Shock. Every punch in this state creates a shockwave, and obviously they deal a ton of damage to enemies. The signature move of this 7th state is creating an air column shaped like a white tiger, and it explodes on contact with terrain or any entity, creating a massive blast. While the terrain destruction can't quite match techniques, like Shinra Tensei. The raw power is nothing to laugh at. And as always, no matter how strong you are, you still can't one-punch Sakura. Now, let's get to Gate 8, called the Gate of Death. In this state, your body radiates red chakra. And in terms of power, even Madara and the tailed beasts can't handle it. Forget about Itachi and the Akatsuki. One punch is all it takes to send them to heaven. And the technique I just used is called Evening Elephant. This technique creates a massive air column that can punch clean through rock. Just a few punches, and Son Goku is already meeting his ancestors. Next up is the technique considered Might Guy's most powerful, called Yagai. When you use this technique, a massive red dragon forms, and then rockets straight at your enemy. This attack can wipe out pretty much every entity in this mod. The only downside is you die after using it. There are 2 entities that can survive this kick, and the first one is the 10 Tails. After the first kick, it still has about 1/3 of its HP, and you'd need a second kick to finish it off. And you know what? The second entity I'm talking about is Sakura. Somehow, in some miraculous way, I've kicked her so many times and she just won't die. Last time I accidentally missed the jutsu, but this time I'm kicking her straight in the face to see if she dies, if she survives this. She truly has main character energy in anime. Next awesome thing in this section is Senjutsu. With Senjutsu, you can use 5 different Sage Art techniques, but to access them, you need to activate Sage Mode. And when you charge it up to 100, you'll enter Sage Mode. Because you're absorbing natural chakra, you'll have a way bigger chakra pool. First Sage Art is the Ultra Big Ball Rasengan. This is a straight up upgrade to the regular Rasengan. This massive Rasengan is about 3 blocks in diameter, and can plow through pretty much anything in its path. Second Sage Art, and again it's yet another upgrade to the Rasen Shuriken. Just look at how much health the bosses in this mod lose. There's literally nothing to argue about when it comes to this massive Rasen Shuriken. At max charge, this Rasen Shuriken can grow up to 50 blocks wide. Guaranteed no enemy can outrun this. The next Sage Art summons 2 Toad Sages, and these 2 Toad Sages then sit on your shoulders and start singing. Any creatures nearby get hit with a Genjutsu similar to Itachi's, and at the same time you'll be given a sword called Shichisaiken. And anyone, no matter how strong they are, once they're caught in the Genjutsu and slashed by the Shichisaiken, they die instantly. But did you notice something's missing here? The black receivers on the back are missing. 4th Sage Art. We get to experience a Sage Art of Senju Hashirama, and this Sage Art summons a 1,000-armed Buddha statue. Every time you attack, the hits are absolutely devastating, and hundreds of arms fire out and obliterate the area. This is the largest summoned entity in this entire mod. Imagine you're in a fight against another ninja on the ground, throwing basic jutsu at each other, or trading kunai and shuriken back and forth. And then this 1,000-arm statue just pops up. I don't know about anyone else, but I'd be out of there so fast. I'm not sure I could even escape, though. If you're thinking it's just standing there, how could it ever catch you? Don't get your hopes up. It can switch to its second mode, and in that mode, it can move more freely. In this state, the statue drops the 1,000 arms form and throws a single punch, but that one punch hits so much harder. Moving on to Orochimaru's Sage Art in Minecraft, and this Sage Art summons an 8-headed snake. When summoned, you sit inside one of the snake's mouths to attack, and the way it attacks is simple, overwhelming with raw size. The mechanic is straightforward. Just right-click on any entity, say attacking Kakuzu, for example, and immediately a new head spawns, while another head lunges down and slams into the enemy. These heads can regenerate infinitely until the jutsu ends, so you can target as many enemies as you want. Before we get to Jinchuriki like Kurama in this video, let's do a quick rundown of the tailed beasts in this mod. First, we've got the 1-tail Shukaku, then the 2-tails Matatabi, and the 3-tails Aisabu, the most recognizable name, the 4-tails Son Goku. 5th-tailed beast is Kokuo, and next is the 6-tails Saiken. The loudest one is definitely the 7-tails Chomai. Then comes the 8-tails Gyuki. And of course, we can't skip the 9-tails Kurama, since this is the most famous tailed beast in Naruto. And at number 10, we can't skip the 10-tails. This is the origin of all 9-tailed beasts, and also the source of Kekkei Mora's power, which I'll be covering later in this video. Next up, let's go over how to become a Jinchuriki. And the first thing you need to do is build yourself a square platform, at least 13x, 13 blocks in size. You can use any block you want, but at the center position, use a different type of block. Then place torches in the exact positions I show in this video. This is the setup for the sealing array that will seal the 9 tails into your body, making you a Jinchuriki. Then you need to use Yang Release, specifically its second jutsu called the 4 Symbols Sealing Jutsu, and use this jutsu on the center block to activate the sealing array. If the pattern displays correctly like this, then move on to the next step. This step uses the third jutsu called the Adamantine Sealing Chains, which can bind a tailed beast so you can bring it to the sealing array, then sit in the seat at the center position to continue the sealing process. Do you notice the 4 circles surrounding the sealing array? Technically, you'd need another player with you to sit in those spots, for the tailed beast to actually be sealed into your body, and for you to become a Jinchuriki. Unfortunately, I'm playing solo right now, so we'll be switching to method 2, which is using a command. If you're playing single player or using creative mode to explore this mod, you can use this command to become the Jinchuriki of a tailed beast. The number at the end of the command can be anything from 1 to 10, but this time I'll pick 9 because I want to become Kurama. And after becoming a tailed beast Jinchuriki, you can advance to the first stage. In this stage, most players share one common trait, loss of control, with a red aura surrounding them. There's one special exception, and that's the 1-tail Shukaku's Jinchuriki, which has its own unique design. You need 400 Jutsu XP to master this state, so just let it loose on some mobs to farm XP, and you'll level up. This state buffs a whole bunch of stats, so it's pretty sweet. To advance to the second state, you need at least 3,600 more XP. Second state is still the out-of-control form, but this time it looks more menacing because the aura is shifting to dark red. Then you need 800 XP to advance to the third stage. This is the exclusive stage for Kurama's Jinchuriki. To complete this stage, you need an additional 4,000 XP, and there will be some slight outfit changes. This is also the XP you need to enter Kurama Chakra mode. Next up, we have Kurama Chakra mode. This is where you fully transform into the tailed beast. Instead of keeping the original form like other tailed beasts, Kurama's color scheme has changed. And the details on the body are different too. The main character's pet has to be different, right? Each hit from the tailed beast when it connects with any entity comes with an explosion and massive damage, and the attack range is also huge. The more Jutsu XP you have, the more chakra your tailed beast form will have. For example, here I have a chakra bar that the screen literally can't even display fully. Worth noting is that the Kurama form only sticks around if you stay in continuous combat, otherwise it disappears. The signature move of Ninetales Chakra mode is the Tailed Beast Bomb. Once charged up, it combines negative and positive chakra into one sphere with an 8:2 ratio, then fires it at the enemy, creating a massive explosion. When you've got high enough XP, you can fire it instantly without even needing to charge. So if you accidentally trigger a Tailed Beast Bomb, best thing to cancel it is to fire it straight up into the sky. And now, this is the real Tailed Beast Bomb. If you've got enough XP in 6-Path Sage mode, it's no longer a small sphere. It's a massive ball-packing nuclear-level force. This bomb creates total destruction over a massive area, along with intense shockwaves.
Oh my PC!
And this is what's left after you unleash the full power of the Tailed Beast Bomb. It literally looks like a crater made by a nuclear bomb, like something out of Resident Evil. I checked out the power levels of the Jinchuriki for each tailed beast, and honestly, they don't differ that much. From regular tailed beast melee hits, to special attacks like the Tailed Beast Bomb, they're all pretty similar. The biggest differences are probably the aesthetics, like the number of tails, for example. Alright, this is Naruto's ultimate form, Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails, also known as 6-Path Sage mode. And to achieve 6-Path Sage mode, you need to grind through a ton of difficult stages. But the step I found the hardest is sealing all the tailed beasts into the demonic statue of the outer path. To seal a tailed beast, you need to put it in a weakened state like this. Then use the jutsu called 9 Phantom Dragons on the tailed beast's body. And immediately, from inside the mouth of the demonic statue, 9 dragons emerge. And these 9 dragons drain the chakra from the tailed beast, then seal it inside the demonic statue. After using the jutsu, you need to immediately stand on the demonic statue's arm by right-clicking on it. And now the sealing process officially begins. In the anime, it takes 3 days and 3 nights to seal a tailed beast. Obviously, that's not possible in a game. So in-game, the duration is 30 minutes, and it also costs 15,000 chakra if you're doing it solo. While in first-person view, you can monitor the percentage progress of the sealing process, and you can also bring friends along to help with the sealing. And obviously, it'll go way faster and cost less chakra too. After successfully sealing all 9 tailed beasts, they'll merge into the 10 tails, and now use the jutsu called 6 Paths 10 Tails Coffin Seal. This jutsu will gradually seal the 10 tails into your body, making you the Jinchuriki of the 10 tails, without needing any outside help. The 10 tails will fade out, and once it's fully invisible, you'll shift into 6 Paths Sage mode. Does this form look familiar to any of you? Yep, this is Obito's form right after he became the 10 Tails Jinchuriki. Your character takes this form when they haven't adapted to the power yet, and in-game it's clearer. If you haven't reached 32,400 Ninja XP yet, you'll be stuck in this form. But once you hit that threshold, you unlock the higher form. That method was kinda complicated, so now let's use the easier way. Creative mode only. While in creative mode, grab the chakra fruit. Go ahead and eat the first one. When you eat the first one, you'll receive the Rinnegan plus a massive XP boost. Equip that Rinnegan, and then eat the second fruit. You'll instantly unlock 6 Paths Sage mode, and gain access to powers that only exist in creative mode. Now let's get into the powers of 6 Paths Sage mode. First up is a jutsu that fires a ball made of the 5 elements, including both yin and yang chakra, and it explodes on contact with terrain or any entity, causing a massive explosion with insane damage, and you can fire it instantly without any continuous hand seals needed. Next jutsu is a defensive one, a black shield protecting you from attacks. Basically, you simply can't take any damage while inside this shield. It's pretty much absolute defense. Unless you choose to drop the jutsu, Next jutsu is a super simple one. It releases a beam of light. This one actually looks similar to the lightning beam in lightning release. If an enemy is under crowd control, the damage scales up massively. If you're not feeling a beam of light, then hit them with a 6 paths chakra lightning bolt instead. Here's yet another upgrade to the Rasen Shuriken. But this is the ultimate upgrade because it combines 6 paths chakra, the Chibaku Tensei's power, and tailed beast chakra into one absolutely unhinged Rasen Shuriken. Next up is Kekkei Mora. Since it's the original bloodline limit, it can only be accessed in creative mode. You just witnessed the most powerful jutsu in Naruto. To cast this jutsu, you look up toward the sky, then summon a truth-seeking ball infused with yin and yang chakra, and some kind of additional transformation to reach god-tier destructive power. Then just aim at your target and hurl it wherever you want. When you throw it, you'll hear Kaguya's voice. She's the owner of this jutsu. After a while, when the black cloud dissipates, you'll be able to see the full extent of its destruction. A massive area around where the ball landed has been completely annihilated. And this is what remains after you use the jutsu on that area. Truly, when it arrives, only silence remains. Next jutsu is a taijutsu technique that unleashes a barrage of massive fists charging at enemies. These massive fists are formed from chakra and deal absolutely devastating damage. The only downside I can see is the attack range is way too short. Big power but short range, that's rough for a man. Third jutsu of Kekkei Mora creates a teleportation portal. This portal can warp you a short distance and lets you close the gap on enemies. If you don't want total annihilation but just want to eliminate someone specifically, then the all-killing Ash Bones has got you covered. It pulls a bone out of the palm of your hand. Then you just fire it at the target you want gone. And sure enough, a short time later, the enemy turns to ash, no matter how strong they are. And that's exactly why it's called the ultimate kill technique. Even big units like tailed beasts aren't exempt. The only thing is the ash effect creates a lot of particles, so your PC will lag a bit. Next is a technique to blast enemies away from you. This technique concentrates chakra in the body, then releases it as a massive chakra wave with extreme pressure to blow enemies back. Alright, that's everything I wanted to cover in this video. Pretty comprehensive stuff. If you have any thoughts, drop them in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for more awesome videos in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.